first time I noticed them, I told myself it was just coincidence. Nightmare 1. My name is Danielle Harper, and this happened in Overland Park, Kansas in 2022. Every morning, I left my apartment at exactly 7:40 a.m. Same routine, same commute, same coffee stop. That's why I noticed the car. A dark grey Honda Accord parked across from my building. At first, I didn't think much of it. Apartment parking can be unpredictable. People have visitors, neighbors get new vehicles. But after 2 weeks, the car was still there. Same spot, same tinted windows, same engine off every morning. I only really started paying attention when I saw the driver. He didn't get out, didn't look at his phone, just sat there, looking forward, looking at my building. I convinced myself I was being paranoid until one morning. I left 20 minutes earlier than usual. The car was still there. The driver looked surprised to see me so early. That was the first time our eyes met. He immediately looked down, pretending to check something. The next morning, I left late. The car was still there. Then, one Saturday, I left town to visit my parents in Wichita. When I returned Sunday night, the car was parked down the street. Different location, same vehicle, same tinted windows. The unsettling part wasn't just the car, it was how familiar it became, like it belonged there, like it had always been there. Then, one morning, as I walked to my car, I noticed something on my windshield, a folded piece of paper. Inside was a single sentence: "You always look rushed." No name, no handwriting I recognized. I told myself it could be anyone, a prank, a mistake. Until the next morning, another note: "You should take your time." I stopped going to the coffee shop, changed my routine, started leaving at different times. The car adjusted, always nearby, always watching. I reported it to my apartment office. They checked security cameras. 2 days later, the car disappeared, just gone. I felt relieved, until one night, weeks later, I stopped at a gas station near my work. As I walked out, I saw the same grey Accord parked near the exit, engine running, driver inside, watching, and for the first time, I realized something. He hadn't been watching my apartment. He had been watching me. Sometimes stalkers don't just watch from a distance. Sometimes they find ways to insert themselves into your daily life. If these stories unsettle you, subscribe to Nightmare Central, because Nightmare 2 shows how quickly online attention can become real-world fear. Nightmare 2. My name is Alyssa Martinez, and this happened in Phoenix, Arizona. It started with a message request on social media. Nothing unusual. Just someone saying they liked one of my travel photos. His name was Mark. His profile looked normal. A few friends. Some posts. Nothing alarming. We exchanged a few casual messages. Then he asked what part of Phoenix I lived in. I didn't answer, he didn't push. But the next day, he sent another message. "You go to Desert Bean Coffee, right?" I froze. That was my usual spot. I had never mentioned it. I checked my profile. None of my photos showed the location name. No tags, no check-ins. I asked how he knew that. He said, "I've seen you there before." That made me uncomfortable. But I told myself Phoenix is a big city. Maybe coincidence. Then he started mentioning other places. A bookstore I liked, a grocery store near my apartment, even the dog park I visited on weekends. He never directly said he was watching me. He just spoke like he knew. Then one afternoon, I went to meet a friend at a restaurant downtown. While waiting outside, I noticed someone across the street staring at me. He smiled, raised his hand slightly. I didn't recognize him, but something felt wrong. Later that night, I received a message. "I'm glad you wore the blue jacket today." That was the moment I blocked him, changed my privacy settings, removed personal details, but weeks later, I received a package, no return address. Inside was a printed photo of me leaving the coffee shop, taken from across the street. I moved apartments 3 months later. I still don't post photos in real time anymore, because sometimes you don't know who's watching until they know more about your life than they should. Some stalkers watch from afar, but the final nightmare shows what happens when obsession becomes part of your everyday environment. Nightmare 3. My name is Trevor, and I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I worked late most nights. I'd support rarely ends at 5 p.m. Servers crash, systems fail, people forget passwords at the worst times. So being alone in the office after hours was normal, until I started noticing him. Tall, thin, always wearing dark clothes, standing near the far hallway. At first, I assumed he worked for another department. Large office buildings have hundreds of employees. You don't know everyone, but something felt off. Every time I saw him, he was standing still, not working, not walking, just standing, watching. I asked a coworker about him. They didn't recognize the description. That didn't immediately concern me. People come and go all the time. Contractors, vendors, cleaning staff. Then, one night, I stayed later than usual, nearly 9:30 p.m. As I walked toward the elevator, I saw him again, standing near the emergency exit, completely still. The hallway lights flickered slightly. For a moment, I thought he might be security, but something felt wrong. Security usually greets you, moves, does something. He didn't. He just watched. The next morning, I asked building management if they had a new night employee. They said no. That night, I stayed later intentionally, curious. Around 9:15 p.m., I saw him again. Same place, same posture, same silence. I decided to approach him. As I got closer, he turned and walked through the emergency exit door. The alarm didn't sound, which meant he had access. I mentioned it to management again. They reviewed camera footage. That's when things became unsettling. The footage showed him entering the building hours before closing. He didn't badge in, didn't speak to anyone, just entered behind employees, blending in, then waited, standing in the hallways, watching, always facing the same direction. Toward my department, management contacted authorities. They identified him as a former employee who had been terminated nearly a year earlier. He had never returned his building badge. Security had assumed it was lost. He had been entering the building periodically for months. No one noticed, except me. The final detail still unsettles me. He had never approached me, never spoken, never interacted. He had simply been there, watching, waiting, until someone finally noticed. Something even scarier than this nightmare is not watching more videos from Nightmare Central. This was nightmares of obsession. Sleep carefully.